Have you ever let fear dictate what you could or couldn't do? For years, that was me because I was absolutely terrified of roller coasters. The more loops, the farther down the drop, the more anxious I was to even think about getting strapped to a ride. It kept me from ever going on anything more than just a kiddie coaster. Everyone has some irrational line that is drawn in the sand due to fear, whether it be an airplane, a bridge, or even something as small as a spider. As a child, my family used to race towards the biggest rides in the park, while I remained away from them, holding their backpacks with me trying to stay under the impression that I was actually enjoying myself riding those little kid rides. I would only accept the challenge of the rides that kept me upright throughout the journey without any kind of inversions, and even thinking about a sharp drop would literally send shivers down my spine. The rule that I created for myself was keeping my feet firmly planted on the ground, staying away from inversions of any kind, and remaining safe in doing so. But today, I want to share my experience of throwing myself in the thing that I fear the most and tell you what happened afterward. I've been fortunate enough to travel to many theme parks throughout my life, and they've become the holding place of some of my core memories. I remember always being the one with my feet firmly planted in the ground, refusing to budge even just an inch, while my dad begged me to go on all those rides together that were so intimidating to me. Of course, I stayed right where I was. There wasn't anything that was going to convince me either. But one day was different than all the others before. So we made our drive up to Dollywood for the first time. I wrestled with my own thoughts over this roller coaster problem that I had faced for so long. I'd refused to hop into the rider's line for so many years, and I always take myself for the fun my dad told me I was missing out on. Today was different, I thought. I'm actually going to do this today. I said it to myself plenty before, but I didn't feel the same as I always had. By the time I'd walked into the park, I was still set on attempting my first big roller coaster. Usually by the time my ticket was scanned in, it was already a done deal for me. But on that day, I looked up to my dad and said, I think I'm actually going to go on everything today. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm sure I thought the same thing that he always thought all those times before. We'll have to see, he would say. I remember the look of surprise when I said, let's go, and headed for the first roller coaster with the loop that I could find after entering the park. As I stepped on the queue for the first time, I was shakingly nervous, and I just tried to shrug it off and keep moving. There was nobody in the line except me and my dad, so there was no other option but to just walk into straight what could very well be the last thing I ever do. Or at least that's what I told myself back then. The climax of the anxiety was when I was about to step into the ride itself. I had one last chance to turn back, and after considering very heavily to run away and never come back, I just decided to step in and sit down. I pulled down the shoulder restraints, took a deep breath in, and at this point I had just accepted my fate because there was no way to get out at this point. Staff members completed their safety checks and gave signals to me, once another. Within seconds, though it felt like days, the car started moving forward. I had no idea what to expect or even what the coaster was going to do. I think somewhere beneath me, nearly wetting my pants, I had some sort of pride in myself for crossing the threshold and having the courage to push through the fear. The car started heading up the chain, and I waited for what felt like an eternity to get near the top. Shaking had faded away and turned to pure adrenaline, because if there was a way to turn back before, there surely was not now. I braced myself for the drop through a clenched stomach and squeezed out any life that might have been in the handlebars. Then that's where something happened. I raced past the bottom of the drop, approaching the first loop. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I realized that I in fact had not died. I had made it past the loop, and a surge of excitement had raced through me. A smile broke onto my face, and before long I was timidly letting go of the handlebars to extend out my hands. And I can't remember every detail of the ride, but what I can remember is stepping off with my head a little bit higher, while I laughed hysterically and proclaimed just how awesome that experience was. I broke the chains of something that had stolen so much joy and excitement from me, but I also knew that that part of my life was over. I was ready to go on every roller coaster, not just at Dollywood, but every roller coaster at any park for that matter. And although facing my anxiety for roller coasters did turn me into a bit of an adrenaline junkie, I learned even more importantly that the things we fear most often hold the greatest rewards. So sometimes we do what we have to do is scary, or uncomfortable, or even unknown, because those are the moments that allow us to grow in life. Thank you.